Yeah. So the girls, I guess, or everybody, the girls went out on the yacht to do some scuba diving or whatever the heck they were doing. We were playing golf. It was a phenomenal golf course. And someone had said that Beyonce's house was on the golf course, right? So here I get up to the tee blocks and yeah, that's Beyonce's house right there. So I was like, well, hey, that's about 350 yards. That's inside my range. So it's amazing. I can't hit the fairway, but I can hit one right in front of her house, right? So I'm walking over towards it to get my ball, and the security guards come out. They got guns and all this crap. And I'm like, oh, they threw the ball back to me. I said, hey, I wanted to play it where it lied. No, sir, you're not.
Not today.
Ladies man, but I'm unready now. For courting 6 girls all at once they use me.
Bye-bye baseball!
My mother said it was naughty, I should take some years back. But I said if it's naughty, sure it's also very nice.
And the lolly drops his glove grabs Dalton. The benches are clearing.
Dust Up with Hilly and Lolly is brought to you by CoolBet. If you got a few extra bucks rattling around in your arse pocket, CoolBet Sportsbook will double your first deposit up to $200 when you use the bonus code DUSTUP. Head over to coolbet.com and get in on the fastest growing entertainment sector in the world. That bonus code again is DUSTUP, one word, all capital letters, DUSTUP. Welcome back, folks. Episode number 14 of Dust Up with Hilly and Lolly. And Hilly, we say it every time, but we got another banger of an episode coming up tonight with one of our former teammates and Big Red, Dale Levy, coming on with us.
Yeah, you talk about a banger. I mean, so myself and you, we've hit some home runs before. we've seen some home runs. I've given up my fair share of home runs. This fella has hit some of the deepest home runs that I've ever seen. Has he not?
Yeah, and not only just deep, massive home runs, clutch. Those massive home runs have come at some of the most clutch times in big tournaments and championship games that you'll ever see. And just looking at some of the things that he's done in the game. You know, he's won 5 Canadian senior men's championships, 3 ASAs, 3 ISCs, and he's just played such important roles on every team that he's been a part of. It's when he's up in big situations, the game changes. And aside from how impressive he is on the ball field and what he's done as a player on the field, how much of a class act and true example of being a great teammate he is. It just serves as an example for any up-and-coming or current ball player. And I can't wait for our listeners just to see what type of guy he was. I know a lot of our listeners know who Red is, but for those who don't, you're in for a treat.
Absolutely, man. You said it. One of my all-time favorite teammates. Let's bring him in.
Here we go. Dale Levy. There's the man himself, Hilly. Big Red Dale Levy. There he is, Hilly.
What's up, Redley?
How's it going, boys?
Oh, buddy, it is excellent. And it's awesome to have you on. You know, I got to see you a little while ago in person, which is great after all the COVID stuff, after you having walked away and retired from the game. We had your surprise 50th birthday party out at the St. Mary's Golf and Country Club. I think that's what it's called. And
Yep.
What a friggin' day that was.
It was caught me off guard.
Yeah. So for our listeners, Red's wife, Donna, so Dale Levy, we'll get into everything he's done in the game, but he's about 6'5", 250 pounds, a dancing dynamite, and nicknamed with this luscious red hair, and we call him Red. So as everyone in the softball community knows, but those who don't, when we call him Red, that's what we mean. So Red's wife, Donna, she organized this surprise 50th birthday party out in her hometown of St. Mary's. And myself and Nick Shales and Mark Johnson and Mark's wife, Ariane, we all kind of went out together and had a foursome for golf. And Red had no idea it was happening. And Hilly, this whole thing, you knew it was happening. I was telling you what was going on, and we were FaceTime with you throughout the day. But this was one of the most fun days I've had just in general. But on a golf course, Hilly, it was unreal, the shock on his face. But then he's all dressed up, right, with this party hat, and then he gets to go around just driving in a personalized golf cart and gets to just tee off with whoever the fuck he wants to. And it was awesome.
It was.
Man.
Yeah.
It was. It was. You know what? It would have been cool just to stay with one group too, but jumping from group to group, wow. It was.
Yeah, but Hilly, you know what it's like right now. So you got me and Nick Shales and Mark Johnson, and Ariane swings hard as well, and then you got Red there. So what are we going to do with the four of us standing up at a tee box in a par 5, right? There's a few loose discs coming in the back, but you think you can hit it? He hits a softball, hitting a golf ball, buddy. How in the fuck do you hit it so far?
Well, you know what? We got up on that first tee blocks, and I was just so pumped to see you guys. It's you know what? It's always good seeing all the guys, but we got up to that first tee blocks. And you guys teed up there, and I don't know, like Shalesy bombed this thing out. It's a par 4, and he hits it like, I don't know, 30 feet in front of the frickin' green. I was like, what the fuck? You guys are like, how am I supposed? So I'm like, whatever. When in Rome, right? So I tee up, and I think I hit it 9 feet further than.
Yeah.
I was like, Jesus, that's just pure luck, right?
Yeah.
So.
And there's bombs going everywhere, and it's the best ball, right? So there's one hole there where Red, and everyone just bombed it down. You would have took it as the best drive, everyone, but it was just cool to be out there and see you, and just it was a testament to who you are as a guy and the relationships that you made. There's a bunch of ball players from years gone by, current ball players that are out there, teammates, guys you played with and against, fans from the softball community. It really was, as much as it was a 50th birthday party for you, it was almost like an Ontario, for sure, softball reunion of sorts. And then we went from the golf course back to your house and continued the night on there, and there's a ton of ball stories told. So that was awesome. So that was the last time we got the opportunity to see each other, and we talked about getting you on here and going through a bunch of what you've done in the game, which a stellar career, just a class act all around. But Hilly, when we've had the privilege of playing with Red on a couple of different occasions, with Hill United most recently when we did the three-peat, and he was a part of that. But when you think of Dale Levy as an all-around ball player, what comes to mind for you?
Well, I'll tell you now, I'll jump ahead a little bit because I didn't get to play with Red in my early days at the ISC circuit, but I think it was 2012 we started with Red with the Chiefs. So that would have been my first. That would have been my first year playing with you, and I didn't know. I knew who Dale Levy was, obviously, but when I joined Hilly United, I found out pretty quick that talk about a team leader, a veteran presence, a gentle giant, and I found out also pretty quick that you didn't want to piss off the gentle giant. And I just thought he was a true veteran presence, and it really helped out we had a bunch of young guys coming in to form this team, and then we had guys like Red, we had RT, Ryan Thompson, Grant Patterson, we had LZ, who was probably like 49 at that point. So it really helped us young guys just come in and relax and play the game, and like I said, I knew the name Dale Levy, and I'll tell you a bunch of stories throughout tonight that is going to lead up to all this stuff. But that was my overall impressions. And that's not even talking about his on-field play, the stuff that he did, the bombs that he hit, the guys that he throws out from the fucking warning track. Like,
it's crazy,
unbelievable, right? But that was my first encounters with Dale Levy.
Yeah. Well, we got to jump in there now because Rev, we talked about this a few times, and it comes to the name, right? So Dale Levy, Levy.
I fucked it up already, did I?
Levy, Levy.
You know what?
Levi. I get it with Malali, right? Malali, whatever it is. But you've gotten it your whole career too, right?
Whole career.
Set the record straight here, Red, for all our listeners.
It's funny because when guys are starting to scribble my name down on the batting list, right? It's, they're just going about it, right? And I see how these guys write the names down, and sometimes you look at my name, they've even called it Dave, right? So my L is maybe on a bit of a tilt. You got a V in there. They're like Dave Levy or Levy coming to bat, right? I've had everything. And I think the one time in the one term I went to them and I said, my name is Levy. I don't care what you call me, my first name, but my last name is Levy. So,
yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. There's Hilly now, not wanting to piss off the gentle giant. We're off to a pretty good start here. Now we got to figure. But yeah, it's one of those ones because you got Levi.
Oh.
I got Mullally, like we just said. Now, and you got over here Jason Hill. Right?
Easy one.
The easiest fucking name
You
on the
can't
planet.
fuck that up.
You can't fuck that up. Right? So he doesn't know the pains that we have, and let alone he doesn't know that we talk
one
about
less
here a
thing
lot.
that Hilly has to deal with, right?
Well, that's
right.
why he,
right.
that's why he DHs, right? He doesn't want to have a whole lot on the mind. When he goes out on the mound, there's a lot going on.
Focus.
He's pitching. When he's in the infield, he's in the infield. So we just try and take away all the thinking away from Hilly. All we do. Hey, bye. Well, Red, it's a fantastic career. Now that you've stepped away from the game, you've had one of the longest and most successful careers of any teammate and guys that I've had the opportunity to play with. But you got started at a very young age in a softball era within Ontario that was really, really competitive. And you started back, just looking at your sheet here, back with the Sebringville Juniors. Was that really the first time in your career where you looked at softball as something you really wanted to dedicate your time and efforts into getting really good and seeing how far you can go in the game?
Yeah. Like I remember coming, out of minor baseball in St. Mary's, and as we moved up out of that, I looked for teams to play for, and when I got asked to come out for Sebringville, I was excited. I wanted to play. My brother played, and he was a very good player. And, I looked up to him as a young brother, and, he's bigger than I am. And,
Yeah.
well, you see him.
You can believe that.
You seen him, Lolly.
Yeah. He's a
You
big
watch
man.
a fucking movie on his back, right? So, but it was something I strive for. I made sacrifices playing this game that, they were tough ones. I spent most of the winter trying to pay my credit card off, right, to get back in, and until I got into the older years where I started getting, a lot better, and you get a little compensation, right? But
that's right.
It was tough. It was tough, but there was a drive and a love for the game that drove me to want to get better, right? So, and watching all these other teams and great players, right? So, there's always that drive for me.
What was it like in the Ontario travel circuit? And I'm talking more specifically around when you made the jump to senior ball, because we talked about it, I think on our last episode, we were talking about the different era of ball, and specifically within Ontario, how competitive it was to come out of the Ontario eliminations for the Canadian Championships and the Ontario ISC Travel League to qualify for these tournaments. It was a hotbed for some of the most competitive softball, with the best pitchers, the best hitters, the best all-around ball players. What was it like for you breaking into the senior circuit at that level in arguably one of the biggest hotbeds of softball at the time?
It was tough. There's no way to put it other than, you had to work hard and you had to play hard, and against those good pitchers, not often did you have a night where you got a thumber to hit against and you were like, oh, okay, let's just relax and, wait for him to throw one down the middle and I'll hit it out of the park, right? It was, you were on guard all the time, right? So it was very tough. And I think that's what, made a lot of players become very good, right? You're always under the pressure, always under the gun. There is no easy team out there, right? So.
You mentioned you came from baseball. Was it a tough transition going from the hardball to the fast pitch? Because like you said, you're facing studs all the time in Ontario in that time. Was it tough or?
No, I didn't play hardball, but always fastball. And
I thought you said you came from baseball, minor baseball in St. Mary's.
No, No, like it was softball, so it was minor, same year as minor softball, but
Okay.
I call it baseball. It's, but
Do you get that? And I know we've all gotten them when we're either traveling around, and especially if you're decked out in your team's gear and you're at an airport, and people come up and ask you, know, what team are you playing with, or what sport do you play? Sometimes it's just easier to say we play baseball. Right?
100%.
You don't want to because you're proud of the sport you play, but Jesus, you got to spend the next 5 minutes explaining what it is you actually do, and then you got to answer the question: is that a girls' sport or is that lob ball? It's a lot of questions come after you tell them you play fast pitch softball.
Yeah. Oh, and I've had people say, "Oh, is that like the underhand thing?" And it's like, okay, when you say underhand, I want to fight you, right? But I say, you know what? You grab a bat, put a helmet on, and step in there against some of these guys who are throwing 88 miles an hour. Tell me what you think, right?
Yeah. So who were some of these guys that were probably in their prime at the top of the game when you were breaking in Ontario? Who were the big dogs?
Darren Zach. Brad Underwood.
Pretty good.
And it's funny, I got that written down right now. Did you get to face Zach and Underwood in their prime as a young kid?
Yes.
There you go.
100%. I think the first time I faced Darren Zach, I was playing with, I believe it was the Shed and Ironheads. And we played a game in St. Thomas on this diamond. It was a hardball diamond. So the pitcher's mound was behind where actually they were pitching. And I just remember getting my chance to go at bat, and you're jacked, right? You're stepping in against Darren Zach, right? And I get up to bat there, and I'm like just like a hair trigger waiting to go. And he throws this pitch in, and ball. I'm like, oh, okay, that wasn't too bad. Throws another lifter, just up in the zone, but not too high. I foul it straight back.
There you go.
And I'm just jacked. Like I'm jacked. I'm thinking inside, this guy isn't that good. Like, I'm like, come on. I step back in and I look out there and it's just shit. It was by me. Like, it's like he was just kind of testing how fast he wanted to throw it. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, this guy fouled one straight back. Well, let's just give him a taste of what it's really like.
Wow.
And just blows it by me.
Wow.
I got a hit.
Did you?
It went right down the first baseline. It was a defensive, and it went right down and the first baseman was, he didn't think it was coming. Hit the bag, kicked out. I got a single, got to first.
Yeah.
Thought it was the World Series, right?
Never forget it. Yeah,
never.
That's right.
Well, I bet you a lot of the guys that we've played with or against that they'll remember and vividly remember their first at bat against Darren Zach. And I think it's a story of pride. I'll tell you mine. So we were down in 2005. I was playing with Town Line at the time. We got to play against County Materials a lot. And we were playing in that Eau Claire Classic Hilly down there. And It was Sunday morning, semifinal game. They're over waiting for us to play. I'm walking. We just won the quarterfinal game in the morning. And you just see the silhouette of them, right? And I'm not sure if I told this story on the podcast or not. If not, screw it, I'm telling it again. But we're walking over, and I see him. It's him, right? So I get the coach, give me the cell phone. I call my dad to tell him that I'm facing Darren Zach. And I think I did tell this story on Bradley's podcast. But anyway, he says, the ball doesn't know who's throwing it. Get in there and swing. I was like, okay, good advice. Get in there and hit. Same thing. I foul one straight back, and then I say, he's going to come with one of those 9 changeups. So just keep your hands back and hope he misses a spot. Sure enough, I'm a young guy. I hit it out. But then he hit it out. Put your head down, turn left, and until you get home. And then I just didn't even look at him. Fast forward to the 2005 Senior Nationals, and I haven't faced him.
I think that's the first time I faced him.
Yeah, when we were up there.
Yeah.
So we're playing him on that back diamond up in St. Thomas Hill. You remember that?
Yeah.
And we get in there, and he gave me a nod when I was getting in the box. I was like, oh, fuck, he remembers me. But maybe that's a nod of respect. maybe that's the nod of respect that he gives to guys that he considers got his number. And nobody. He threw me 11 pitches. I think I fouled 2 off. I let 2 go, and I swang through the rest. He struck me out 3 times on curveballs. And it was just a nod going back that, all right, you got lucky once, but this is me getting you good 3 times. And that's my Darren Zach story, that you might get lucky once, but you're not going to beat him.
Yeah.
What about you, Hilly? When did we're on the Z, man? Give us your first Z experience.
Like I said, I think it was that wasn't he out playing for Alberta?
Yep.
An Alberta team at Nationals?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't remember what happened that game, but I know how it ended. I hit a home run off him in the 8th inning.
There we go.
I remember that. And
Welcome
I'll never forget
to the Dust Up Bragging Podcast here, folks.
Hello.
But so I called my old man, and I'm like, Dad, man, like that, you never guess what happened. And I told him whatever. He goes, way to go, son. He said, but listen, he said, that wasn't the Darren Zach your old man faced back in 95. He said, I never had so much as a nipper off him.
Yeah.
He was,
I did.
He was pretty good. Like in his younger days, like it was like borderline almost untouchable for a young guy like you and I going up against him. I was blown away by it. How well he could just turn it up.
Yeah, like too hard apparently. Like he had like 3 or 4 different change ups, change curve, drop change, rise change, like
But that's one of the things that I guess it's a downfall maybe of playing so long. You'll always get that respect and that lore that Darren Zach who's played that long, but it comes now when he's towards the end. If you're facing him quote unquote not in his prime, it's always going to be you should have seen him back when. But when I think of you, Red, you've had a real long career, but you've gotten to see some of the best pitchers from a lot of different eras in their prime at different stages of your career. And I had it written down here, so now's a good time to bring it up, is when you look back on the pitchers that you faced over your career, who were some of the best of each era that you're like, these guys are on top of their game and they're really challenge you to bring your best?
Yeah. Definitely Darren, Zach, and Brad Underwood, hands down. I don't care who else you are. They were dominant pitchers. Zach was phenomenal. Underwood was a lefty who just great command of his pitches, and the fucking guy was a stud. He'd win a game, walk off home runs. Yeah. That guy could straight out hit.
I heard that. Yeah.
Probably up there with one of the best hitters I have ever seen. He's right up there, top 5, easily.
Wow.
Easily. Like, I remember seeing him up in Owen Sound, and the Gators were playing some other team week. I think Jason Byers was pitching, and they probably thought they had him on the ropes. Brad was sitting on the bench. I was just down the fence line listening, and was it Terry Bader?
Yep.
Comes down and says, "Hey, Brad, grab a bat." And he was talking with, I think, Bruce Castleman, maybe.
Okay.
And they're just having a conversation. I think they were talking like finances or something. It was ridiculous. And he grabs his bat, puts his helmet on. He's just standing there taking a couple nonchalant swings. That batter ahead of him just, struck out or something or flew out. And he's like, "Brad, you're going in." Okay. They kept talking. He took a couple more swings, walked up to the plate, watched the first pitch, hit the second one over the fence, came back in, sat down, and they continued his conversation like it had never happened. I was like, this guy hit so many home runs, he doesn't even talk about them,
Yeah, he's one of the guys I really wish that I've had an opportunity to see play and see in the prime, but we've gotten the opportunity to see some of these legends at some stage of their career at some tournament, but I've never had the opportunity. Hilly, I don't think you have either, because we talked about it a few times.
I never even seen him pitch. Like I think about it, I got to face Zach at the end of his career. I'd faced Pietnik at the end of his career. Never Underwood, Crawford, a couple of those guys. But I would love to see him, because there were so many, like you said back then. Every team, especially in Ontario region, had a good pitcher, like they always say. And we said on the podcast before, they say it was harder to win Ontario playdowns than it actually was to win the Nationals.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is fucking crazy to think about, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and then they got to pick a couple players to go with them, right?
Yeah, you get to load up. It's cool when you look back at the state of the game back then.
Speaking of that, what was the deal there one year? And I don't know if Nationals might have been here, and I don't know if it was junior or senior. What was it? This particular team didn't qualify from Ontario for Nationals. They got beat out in playdowns, and then a bunch of their players went and represented like Whitehorse or like Yukon or something, or Northwest Territories or something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
I kind of faintly remember it, but yeah, like I remember playing a team and we beat them out, and they were totally. I think they'd already booked hotels there, right? So it was pretty funny, but
yeah, well,
I can't remember exactly what had happened, but.
Well, that's what it had to do in Newfoundland. And just because it's so expensive to get off the island, there's not a lot of sponsorship money back then. Everything was done through fundraising. So you had to have the play downs. It didn't happen in the same year. It was the previous year's all Newfoundland provincial winner would represent Newfoundland the following year at the Nationals. So they had that 11 months or so to fundraise, and you knew that you're booking. I can't imagine having to qualify a couple of months before going to the Nationals, having your fucking hotel rooms booked, and then get knocked out on Sunday and not getting to go. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
But, bottle drive every day.
Yes, bottle drives. There you go. But I just want to stay on this pitcher stuff. We're talking about a bunch of other people when we got 1,000 things we want to talk to you about, but you talked about some of the fierce pitchers you got to play against. You've also had a pretty good front row seat out in center field, in the outfield, and on the bench to some of the best to ever play behind and with. Who jumps out in your mind of best pitching teammates that you've had a chance to play with?
Obviously, Donnie Scott.
Yeah.
Frickin' horse, right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Unfreaking believable. You give this guy the ball on Friday and he'll give it back to you on Sunday, right? And I can't say enough about him. Great friend. Played with him for years. I played against him a couple times. We both had I think he maybe got me a little more than I got him, but I still love him. Doesn't make any difference. He's a great teammate that I had played with, and other players, you can't say enough about Adam. World class for forever. Him and I are good friends, talk quite frequently. Back when we used to drink a little more, right, and have some fun. Love that guy. I'd often ask him, is that guy coming out tonight? Because I miss that guy, right? Because there was a couple of years where he thought that having a couple of drinks got in the way, and that's his prerogative. And I never once said, come on, forget it, let's go, right? But yeah, he's still one of the greatest pitchers that I'd ever kind of played behind too. So,
yeah. Well, and I think those guys, and I know there's a bunch more that we've all had a chance to play with. I don't like putting people on the spot, dropping names on here, because you're always going to leave people out. But I'm sure every single guy that you've mentioned, especially those two, would say that the exact same things back to you about what you bring to the table as a player, as a teammate, as a leader, off the field just as much as on the field. And that's what stands out to me when I think of Dale Levy, the ball player, the person, the teammate. And that's what we want to dive into a little bit more on now, because you're also, nickname Big Red, right? You're a mountain of a man. You got red hair, but you come up in so many big moments. There's so many big Dale Levy clutch at-bats, hits, game-winning hits, tournament-long streaks of hitting that won't be duplicated, unreal catches and throws in the outfield. And the one that really sticks out to me, because it's near and dear to me, was back in 2006, the Nationals out in Prince George. What you did out there was something that I'll never forget. I think softball in Canada is one of the best moments. And just to give a little bit of context to what that was, we've said it on the podcast a couple of times. In 2006, that was the year I chose to not play with Newfoundland at seniors, to go play with St. Thomas. And I got an opportunity, being encouraged by Robbie and Sean O'Brien. I wanted to make the national team, come out and play with St. Thomas because Wolfie wasn't able to make the first 3 days of the tournament. So I could get out there and get a starting position and try and earn a spot as we went along. And you were my center field partner at that point in time. And that's the first time I got to meet you. Young guy, just really getting around these ball players. But I won't go any further on it there. When you think back to that tournament, because it ends in a pretty dramatic fashion, Hilly, and I know that you had a pretty cool seat to that. We'll get to it in a minute. But what did that no, actually, I will tell it. So we get into the championship game. We go in extra innings against the host team, Prince George, with Corey Guru on the mound, who's just throwing blinders for 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
And then Big Red gets to come up in the bottom of the ninth inning, and I can still remember you walking to the batter's box, and bang, the biggest home run I've ever seen, launched and walk off. I still got a dent in my head because those low fucking dugouts. And I jumped up, and I think I hit a nail or a 2x4 or something. I nearly knocked myself unconscious, but I'm walking out dizzy. It was still to this day one of my favorite softball memories. But just walk us through that tournament, that game, and that at bat from your perspective.
Yeah. So, coming into that final game, Billy Horn had come to me and said, Red, I told everybody at the start of the week that, if whoever was playing well was going to play. And I said, yep. He says, Coley was batting, I think, 322, and I was batting 311. So he says, I don't want to upset you, but I said, hey, he's playing well. Of course you got to play him. I'm a team player. I want the best players on the field regardless, right? So he started the game, which I was fine with. We had good players out there. There was no need for any, desperate acts, right? So I sat there for 7 innings until we got to the 7th. And I don't think Mark had hit very well against Corey, which was understandable. I don't think he really saw him a lot, but I got a chance to come up to bat in the 7th. And I had my at bat, and it was a good at bat. I wasn't upset about it. He threw a lifter inside that I just, when I swung at it, I just missed it, right? And it was a type of pitch. It was my pitch, but I beat myself. And when I swung on it, as I got through, I don't even think I had the bat around. I had a smile on my face walking back to the dugout, because I was like, if I get back up again, he's going to try to throw that by me, and I'm going to hit it a mile. So here we are, 9th inning. I come up to bat, and I'm like, is he going to come back? You guys are hitters. Are they going to come back? Did they think they can beat me there again, right? So I stood in there, and he threw a pitch on the inside. It was, some umpires would have called it a strike. It wasn't a strike. It was off the plate. Very good pitch, but you could tell he was upset that he didn't get the call.
Right.
And I knew right there and then, I knew the catcher was going to go right back to the well. I put my foot in the bucket, and he threw it into my bat. And you guys know the feeling when you fully extend and, make a chop at a ball, and you hit the best part of the bat. You know that feeling, right?
Yeah.
And it just took off. And I just remember it. I probably only followed it for 150 feet, and then I just looked at you guys because I knew it was landing somewhere in Alberta. But
and so did we.
I floated around those bases. It's one of those things where you dream about playing in the biggest game and having the biggest hit, and essentially a walk-off home run is that, right? So I don't even remember going around the bases. Did I walk? Did I run? I thought I was floating. The only thing I regret is I should have took my helmet off before I got to home plate, because
you got beat to shit.
You guys beat the tar out of me.
I tell you what, I'd say you were pretty happy at that moment. but I was the second happiest person in that fucking ballpark. that game to me felt like what was 7 hours. So I was with Aspen Black Sox that year, and I think we had got knocked out the day before. I don't know who, maybe Gru knocked us out, maybe you guys, I can't really remember. And the Newfies, the Newfoundland team was up there too. So we met up with the Newfie boys that Saturday night at the bar and got into a few, and then met up with a few more boys, got into a few more. Anyway, so we just partied it up, right? And I was sick as a pig the next day. So everybody had left the hotel. We're all leaving. We're at the park. We're going to watch this damn championship game. I was like, all right, yes, I'll go. So this day was hot. I don't know. It was hot for me. I was sweating.
I think it was cloud cover, Hilly.
Yeah, and I was I was looking for shade. So I go out in this beer tent. And there's like a big spruce tree out in the beer tent, and I just lie down on the grass. This is probably like the 6th or 7th inning. I'm just lying in the grass under the tree by myself. Not a soul around me, trying to get some shade. There's just sweat coming off me. And I remember, so it felt like 2 hours later, so it must have been 9th inning. I heard a roar, and I just looked up like this, and I seen a ball, like it looked like fucking Haley's Comet going by me. Just had smoke going behind me. And I'm just sitting there, and I remember, well, holy fuck, thank God that's over.
Yeah.
I'm like, get me out of here. Oh, God.
Yeah.
But,
Well, you had a headache. I had
story.
a headache after that for beating it off the top, and I can answer your question, Red. You trotted around the bases like a friggin' boss is what you did. And
I'd imagine there's some swagger in there.
That's awesome.
Was awesome. But I remember from that, there's a couple of things from that game. So I'm playing left field, and I'm wearing number 7. And Wolfie's playing center field, and he's wearing number 77. And this place is packed in Prince George for the host team on championship day. The beer tent is right behind left center field. And they're in, like you said, it's a long game. And their beers are flowing since probably 9 o'clock that morning.
So long.
And anyway. But do you remember when Chris Jonesy called a protest when he ran into that guy? It was one of the best veteran moves, and just the composure that he had to make that play. There's a ground ball. He ran into the runner. They called the runner safe, and he just called protest right on the spot. It was a game-changing play. It went our way. They would have went ahead. But while the protest is going on, me and Wolfie are together out in left center field, and we're down on one knee, and our backs are to the beer tent, and all we hear is, "Look at the 777 assholes out in the outfield." Nice number, assholes. So here we go. Yeah, let's get this game over with, man. But
they were in the right at like home plate, because that home team, the host team was there. Like, I thought they were trying to throw soup cans at us, right? It was crazy. It was borderline almost going to get out of control in there.
Yeah, it was nuts, man. But this is for our listeners or any young kids or current players out there, that the value of being a good teammate, and that's going to be a theme of what we talk about when we go through a bunch of the moments in your career. You got to look at this and put it into context. The guy's going out there in the prime of his career, and in the championship game was told before the game, everybody wants to start in a championship game. There's pride on the line, and the way you handle that with no animosity, just went to being a good teammate and being ready. But you got called upon in the bottom of the 7th inning. You went up with a mission. It didn't happen in that at bat, but you took something from it, and then you turn around in the bottom of the 9th and got up and won it for the team, for your province, in fashion like that, and then ended up getting the MVP award, and you didn't start the championship game. It just goes to show how important mindset, attitude, preparation, putting the team first, and that's how you will be remembered by the guys that played with you and respected by the guys that you played against. The proof was in the pudding there, and it's an example for any current or upcoming ball player that it's not how the game starts, it's how the game finishes. And the one thing you do have in control is how you respond and how you show up as a teammate. And that's even more so than the home run and the win. That's what stands out to me about you in that tournament.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I spent many years, younger years, if the coach asked me to sit on the bench and we were winning 15-2 and he wanted to put somebody else in, I went and sat on the bench, and I'll be honest with you, I wasn't happy about it, but 15-2, another guy's going to get a chance to go in and play. It took me a little while for that to sink in and realize, everybody needs a chance, right? And that's how players get better. And, obviously that's probably how I got started, right? So, it took years. I'm not saying I'm a slow learner, but it took years for me to figure this game out. I didn't have guys like, the clinics they have today that, teaching how to play the game and what to look for and what to do. I had to do it myself. So it was tough.
Yeah, and sometimes it's all a guy needs is a break too, right? Especially like a young kid, like you talk about young Wally there. So his break that tournament was at Mr. 100%. Wolf, Captain Canada, wasn't there for the first 3 days, and Dingle Balls went out and had a few home runs, and and then he became part of the 777 assholes, right? So that's all you need.
That's it.
But
Hilly was probably starting that chant.
It probably was him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but Red, from a Canadian's perspective, that was my favorite home run you ever hit at Canadians. But my least favorite home run that you've ever hit at Canadians was against us in 2011. So let's talk about that tournament for a little bit.
Yeah, you might have been wearing 7, but you were an asshole that day. I can tell you right now.
All I remember, we steamrolled through that round robin. And we get to the playoffs and we win the game to go to the finals, and then we face you guys into the finals. And you guys had to take the long road because I don't think your record was too hot coming into the playoffs. And you guys had to come up through, and you just started rattling off wins, and the scores kept going up and up and up. And then all of a sudden we're facing Kitchener in the finals. Todd Martin starting. This guy, Dale Levy, has 12 RBIs in the playoffs coming into this game or whatever. It was something crazy like that, right? And you ended up, I think you ended up with like 15. Do you care to enlighten us how big were you seeing the ball at that particular time of your career?
Yeah. So, at that time, I figured 2008 was probably my best year coming into it. And I was getting older then too, right? I don't think a lot of people realize how older I was than everybody else I was playing with. But, 2011, you're right. I just trusted my hands and waited. And, sometimes these pitchers thought, okay, hey, you know what? I need a pitch. I'm just going to throw it and hopefully I get a strike and he doesn't either swing or he misses it. Right. So then I wasn't given the pitchers that breath to take. So, and it was do or die. You couldn't go around me. I think Andrew Phibbs was playing very well too. Actually, it's funny because he was using my bat, and he went out and bought a new bat, and he says, "Listen, I want that old bat because I hit phenomenal with it." So he gave me a brand new bat. I said, "Go ahead, take it. I don't care." Right?
Yeah.
But it was, what it was. It was. I felt very good. I felt comfortable. And going up against pitchers, I saw it very well. And it was, in the game against you guys, I didn't think Sean would challenge me that early in the game. And, I'm pretty sure you guys were upset with him for throwing that pitch, but you know what, it is what it is. And I don't think I wasted any time getting it out of the park, but
no, I think the town of Owen Sound is upset with you too. You put it through the friggin' I don't know, whatever's the train car that was out past center field.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
from our perspective, right? And it's from when I look back on big moments, we've had a chance to play in a bunch of different championship games. So we know the components that go into winning and some of the things that are involved when you come up short. But that ended up being the third of a three-peat for the Kitchener, right? And that was 09, 10, and 11. You guys were dominant. Yeah. But I still believe it to this day that going into that game, we were the best team.
100%. You were the best.
You guys were one run away from not making the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then we steamrolled everybody. But it just goes to show that in a one-game winner-take-all final, we hadn't won yet. And we were going against a veteran team of people who've won. And then the fact that you were going into a three-peat, there was nothing new going to be thrown your guys' way that you haven't seen before. Everything for us up until that point was either new or right before being new and getting over the hump. And it just goes to show the veteran leadership and knowing how to win. But again, it's just another big Dale Levy moment that was the difference maker. And it was, as much as it was devastating for us to lose, we weren't surprised that you hit the ball out, that you got on fire, and that you guys won. It stung. We talked about it on last podcast, how 2007 always sticks with us. That one too, Hilly, is always going to sting. But in that game, the better team did win. You guys came together. It was unbelievable.
We play you guys 20 times, okay? We win once. And whether it's the luck of the draw or whatever, at that time I didn't know you guys terribly well. I knew how good you were. I knew how good your team was. I knew we had to play well, right? So, and that, you're right, it is. That's the best thing about that game. If you play well and put your best in, you're giving it your best shot. You're not leaving anything, you're laying it all out there and getting the job done, whether you win or lose, right? I just feel that you guys I looked at your team, there was no weaknesses in there. You had a bad game and we had a good one. But looking back now, I was actually very happy because, it was one of those weeks that I finally put a bunch of good at-bats together and was recognized that I can play this game, right? And I know that probably people knew that before that, but still inside of my head, I still felt that I had something to prove to the game. And maybe some people thought I wasn't that good or whatever, so be it. I'm totally happy with what I've done.
No, well, you should be. And when you look at that, but it goes to show that you're never satisfied, never complacent, and going in always is more of a personal challenge. And then, you want to prove it to other people. And it just keeps that hunger and drive going. But I want to talk to you about the 2008 season. It was arguably, and you just said it was what you would consider your best season as a ball player, but there was a lot of things that went on behind the scenes leading into that season. And you and I were both a part of it and had different perspectives on it. And it's particularly around the merger of the Aurelia River Sharks and the Kitchener-Hallman Twins. And you were with Kitchener for a number of years up until that point. But in 2008, when you look at the team you were playing with Aspen. Can you take us through, from your perspective, everything that led up to that season and then walk us through that season?
Yeah. So we had heard rumors of it. And, after the final game of the year or whatever. And, I can remember it very vividly. I was at home. It's not too often that I get cut from a team. So I don't know, other than Team Canada, I don't know of any other team I've been cut from. So, to get the call saying, "Hey, Dale, we need to talk. This is what's happening. They're merging. And unfortunately, we don't have a spot for you." So, and in that conversation, I was surprised, but, in the conversation, they had said, "Well, it's not like you really had a great year or anything like that." I think I was second team all-world, all-star outfielder.
Pretty good.
So, I felt that I had a fairly decent year, but I got it, I got it. Teams were merging, and it was, okay, center field, who do you got? Right field, who do you got? Center field. They just go down, this guy, and this guy. Totally get it. I wasn't upset about it. I think I was more determined than ever when Saskatoon finally called and said, Dino says, we want you. We're sick of losing to you. We want you. So I said, perfect. We made it happen. And you know what? I think it was the first tournament I went to out in Grand Prairie. Yeah. We played the Horse Lake tournament.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Obi and I, we get there off the plane, and we were tired. We went back to our room. No one was there. They were still driving. We fell asleep in our room, and all of a sudden we wake up and they're in our room. And they're like, let's go. Right. So we out to the bars we go, and we proceed to just drink our faces off. And the next morning I wake up and I'm like, this is great. I'm potentially still drunk. So I don't even have a uniform yet. So we get to the ballpark and I'm like, hey, has anybody got like a freaking uniform for me? So they give me the jersey and all that. And then all of a sudden they give me these black pants. They look like dress pants. I could have worn to the bar. Right. Yeah. But anyways, that morning we played, and I couldn't even tell you who we played, but I think I hit a double, triple, and a home run. And I don't even know how I did that. I think when I got to third base, I thought I was going to collapse because I was breathing so heavy. Yeah. But so I thought, great. We went back to the room. I rested. I think we played Darren Zach next, which, I think it wasn't his prime, but he was still a good pitcher. And, I went out there and I played okay, but,
better when you're drunk.
I was better when I was drunk.
Yeah.
So it was funny because for the rest of the year, if we ever playing in a big game, Sean O'Brien was my roommate, fantastic roommate. You can't find one too much better than him.
No.
He would say, Red, we got a big game tomorrow. Let's go. Let's get you drunk. I was like, what? So we'd go out, we'd start drinking, and, I'd be hungover coming to the game, and I would play lights out. It was crazy, but, it's nothing that I like to brag about being hungover every time I played, but.
Hey, if it works.
I remember. I felt like we played you guys a lot that year with the farm in 08. You guys had wasn't that Shalesy and yourself, Obi, Schellenberg with you?
No. I can't. I don't think. No,
Shelley would have been maybe 09. He joined that.
Yeah. There was that first year we had I think we had basically a football team. Rick Smith.
Oh yeah.
Louis Juggler. Trevor Ethier, Dean Oline, myself, Scrappy. I'm probably missing some guy that's probably pretty big. Like when we walked into the ballpark, we looked like monsters, right?
Yeah.
And I was an average size guy in that group.
It was a huge team. And, you and I have talked about this a number of times, how the camaraderie of that team really re-energized your career, especially coming off of that whole situation with the merger. But that happens in the sport, but in your situation, it happened, and then you guys take that team and turn it into a powerhouse and go down to the 2008 ISC Championship in Kimberly, Wisconsin. And now,
that's right. Yeah.
Now we're facing off on Sunday, the team that merged and cut you to the new team that you formed, and now it's re-energized your passion for the game. And we're going in and having to battle in the winner's bracket or the whatever. The winner goes to the final, and the loser got to battle back, and then we face off. Well, you guys face off. That was where I had the morphine in the shoulder and all that. But that was the 2008 ISC Championship game. Was one of the best ever, and you went off in that final too. You went off in that whole tournament, but that was we know how the game ended, but that whole year in that game, that must have been pretty intense and memorable for you overall.
Yeah. You know what? I think back, and that was just, I was under nobody's shadow, and they gave me a role to play, and I took it and ran with it. And, I did play well. I'm not saying that was the best hitter on the planet, but I did play very well, and I was very happy. They were very happy with me. They talked to me all the time. That team we had a bunch of misfits kind of thing, right? And even what made us really good is the guys that were batting 7, 8, 9 came through a lot of the time, and it was pretty cool. So, but yeah, like losing to them and you guys in the finals was bittersweet. Sure, I would have loved to have won, but the moment after you guys won and you're all jumping around, I kind of slid down the fence and I leaned up against there and I looked across and I was like, you feel empty, but here I get to see Donnie Scott, Derek Shackleton. I get to see all these guys that I played with win a world championship. And I'll be honest with you, I started walking down the line saying, hey guys, you know what? We played very well and we just didn't win that last game. And it doesn't make us crappy. It doesn't make us I was happy for them because, it's always something I wanted to win and I got to watch them win it. So, it was exciting for me to see them jumping around. Maybe not everybody, Frank Cox.
Yeah,
but whatever.
It just goes to the class acts that you are and the way you fierce on the field, everything you have, leaving it on there, and when it's over, more. It's friends off the field. That's the thing when you get into those games. For the most part, you're playing against some of your best friends, often former teammates, and then we're all going to meet up in the beer tent at some point. But
100%.
But it was something special to see how you came out in that season, and then it was just there was no question about your level of talent and the fact that you were one of the best clutch hitters, all around ball players, outfielders, and it just goes to show another big red moment.
Dust Up with Hilly and Lolly is supported by Miller Lite. Great Pilsner taste with only 90 calories and 3 grams of carbs per serving. After a tough game, it's always Miller time. Please drink responsibly. So here you are. You're coming off a couple humongous years, not to mention some great years before that. And in the following year, in 2009, you get the call to represent Team Canada.
Yeah.
So can you touch a little bit on what it was like, your journey to wear the Maple Leaf jersey and then to actually play at the ISF for Team Canada in Saskatoon in front of your hometown fans? Not your hometown, but our home country.
Yeah. No, I was, it's when I first started into that program, I think it was 95. It was a development camp. 1995. Yeah. How old were you guys then?
11.
Yeah. So, that was my first taste with it. And I liked it. It gave me something else to strive for. And I think later in the years, I watched people develop like, Mike Taylor, end of one year, come into the next, he's put on 25 pounds of muscle and he's launching bombs like they're like flicking them out of there. Right. So, after that year, I jumped in the gym and I started working hard and starting more to train other than treating it like a game that, a hobby that I play on the weekdays. Right. So, leading up to that, I remember telling my local newspaper, they said, what are your chances? And I said, I don't know what my chances are. All I know is that I'm going to play the best I can play and I will force them. I'll make it hard for them not to pick me. Right. So having, I got onto the team. It was awesome. It was awesome. Like, it was right up there with some of the best things I'd done in the game. And, getting to play for Team Canada, wear that maple leaf on your chest. It was good. I loved it. It was great. And playing with you guys and all that, nothing's better. Right. when you love that game so much, and back then I loved it. I would have traded my soul to the devil for it. But it was just something in your blood, and to achieve, something that you've always wanted to do. And it was awesome. I loved it. I still think back, I still have the jersey, I think, I got Lolly out in our town. There's the Baseball Hall of Fame, and we go up against some of Team Canada's slow pitch players and hitting bombs, right?
That was fun, man.
So I got Lolly out there hitting bombs with us, and it's awesome. They've got those 650 launcher balls. They feel like you're hitting a golf ball.
Yeah, that was insane too, by the way. Like getting out there, hitting that. These guys launching bombs. But with the 2009 ISF, knowing how much of a dream that was for all of us to be there. Now, Hilly, that was the one right before you came on the circuit, your Team Canada career. And Red, when we were...
Yeah, no, I got cut from that team. You might as well just say it. I got fucking cut. There we go. Carry on.
So Red, there's two guys on here that were good enough to make that team, and there's one guy that wasn't. But we go out there. When I look back on the ISFs that I've been a part of, right? Each one of them's different because the competition and all the teams are different. But that one, just the talent, the legendary talent. Now looking back of the amount of Hall of Famers across all the countries, that was a really, really competitive tournament. Like the New Zealand, the Australia's, Adams coming out party. We had a fucking powerhouse of a team, and we're playing at home in Bob Van Imp, where this place is packed. You just represented Saskatoon and Aspen the previous season, so it was disappointing. It's another one that stings. We lost to New Zealand in that bronze medal game to go to the final, but the amount of legendary ball players on the ball field for that game, it's unreal thinking back on it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's you just look down the list of them, right? And at any given time, each one of those players were, they're the stud on their team, their local team, or wherever they played, right? Like the best of the best. And it was, if someone else went out to play in a position that was yours, in my personal experience, I didn't have a problem with it. I wanted to play, but I think everybody should get their chance to show a little bit. And, it was a powerhouse team. You could have put any 9 out there and it still would have been good. Right. So,
yeah. So we came up short in that, but it's a great experience to play at home, represent your country. We did come away with a medal that when you look back on your career, whether it's bronze, we don't like bronze in the moment, but we were able to medal for our country. And then, we need to, we're over an hour here with you now, but we got to talk about the Hill United era that we got to play with you. Right. And we talked about your three-peat with the Kitchener team at the Nationals. You've been a part of 2 pretty significant three-peats, one with Ontario at the Nationals, and then you're a part of the Hill United three-peat 2013, 14, and 15. And what jumps out to me about that, and this is really the part of it I want to dig into. I know, Hilly, you want to talk a little bit about the Hill United side as well, but at that point in your career, and this is from my perspective, and you can tell me I'm full of shit if it is, but that
I'll tell you. You
will, yeah. But in my mind, that's where you were kind of transitioning from being that number 3 hitter and the center fielder and that that core role within the starting lineup to. I remember you saying, or the coach is saying, that you went to him and saying you'll take on whatever role they ask of you on this team. It didn't take anything away from how you conducted yourself within the dugout, how you led the team as one of the captains and always ready to come in. Still had a number of clutch moments and games and performances in the Hill United jersey, but how was that transition for you going into that team and then being a part of that three-peat with the Hill United Chiefs?
Yeah, you know what? I wish this for everybody, every fastball player. I just hope that every one of them can leave the game the same way I did. You know, I came onto that team as a player. You know, I played my share in the outfield and whatever in the first year. But then second and third year, I kind of took a back seat, which was still fine with me. At that time, you know, my body was starting to fail me. Not muscular wise or anything like that, but just, you know, ankles, lower back, you know, the constant pounding, running in and out of the outfield and of every day and every game, you know, it out of all the years of playing, had caught up with me. And you can ask Chase, the trainer, you know, I said to him, I said, you got your work cut out for you looking after me. But yeah, no, it was really easy. It's you playing behind players like yourselves here. You know, it was a pleasure to watch. I felt like you guys were doing the same thing I did, right? Coming onto a team, pushing an older guy out and leading on and taking over. I didn't feel bad about it. I loved being there. I still love the game, right? And I can't complain because Hilly United and you guys, you put 3 world rings on my fingers. You guys wrote the final chapter in my career. So, you know, even the ASAs, the 3 ASAs, right? It's, you know, it was phenomenal. I loved it. And the sponsor, you can't find a better one, right?
Yeah.
They looked after us very well and treated us great. And there was never, ever any qualms about anything, right? So, you know, I loved it.
And it's a tough thing to do for a lot of people too. Like you play at such a high level and you're such a big part of every team. You're batting 3, 4, 5. You're a center fielder. There comes a point where, you know what, you're going to kind of become more of a role guy. And it's difficult for a lot of people sometimes to accept that. But like we had guys, and you weren't the only one. We had a lot of guys, and we're all going to be, myself and Mark, we're going to be there too. There comes a point in time, the body gives you signs, and you switch from metal spikes to rubber spikes, and you're on the table more than you're on second base after hitting a double, right? You know, 100%. So there comes a time, and we had a few guys like that, but it's players like that who contribute to the success of the team, because it only takes, you know yourself, it only takes one guy or one bad apple who can fuck up the whole chemistry of the team just by pouting or by, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And 100%. I mean, you accepted that role graciously with open arms, and it made all the world of difference for us. You know, because we're still the young guys, and we're still looking at you as the leaders and the veteran presence, and you know, and
perfect example. Awesome, you know, I think I had 2 at bats in the last Worlds we played, 2015, the last one we won. I had 2 at bats for the whole week, which, you know what, didn't bother me. It was 2 home runs, but it's
not a big deal.
I was still, you know what, I love being there. I love watching you guys play, and I still could be part of the game, right? I still could be part of the game. Just my body, you know, just couldn't keep up.
Well, and when I want to make this perfectly freaking clear to all of us and anyone listening out there, in no aspect of this was you sitting back and yeah, it was a different role, but it wasn't just sitting back and going along for the ride. And I'll speak to it personally, but I know 6 or 7 other guys in the same situation. When you go through that type of run with these guys year after year, and especially you're playing a lot of high pressure situations, we all slump. We all go through periods of doubt or trying to figure something out. You kind of slipped into the role where it was either me or Shalesy or Hilly, Adam at times, Bradley, MJ coming in, Red, what do you see? Or you'll take it upon yourself. You're a good teammate. You'll come over, you see it down, picking a guy up. And it was so impactful on the culture of the team, but being that veteran presence, someone that is just so respected among the players on our team that will either come in and seek your advice on how to get better or deal with something, or listen to you when you had something to say. And that was so impactful for the guys on our team and on the success that we had.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember being a younger player and being frustrated and coming to the bench. And I'll tell you what, everybody knew when I come in, I had a temper and I would just start chopping shit down with my bat, right? And I needed somebody to be there to say, hey, he got you. He got you. But you need to pull your shit together because you get more than one chance to get this guy. And we just need you to get him once, right? So you're taking yourself out of the game by letting your emotions take over, right? So, you know, I love being there because I remember being in those situations. I wish somebody would have stepped in and helped me a little more, right? But I think maybe less, they were probably too scared to come over. But
yeah, we're not as big as you, Red. But no, it was fantastic to go through that. And before we wind it down, there's a couple of things I had written down here that I need to go through. So you just talked about the Hill United, the sponsorship and how great they were. And in our very first episode, way back when, we had Robbie on here, Robbie O'Brien, and we talked about after we won our first one, the sponsorship group flew us to the Bahamas and we were allowed to take a guest. I was single at the time and I wanted, I chose Robbie O'Brien to come with me, and he described walking through the airport, and you were the first person he locked eyes with at the gate, and he'll never forget the look on your face. What do you remember about that?
yeah, well, it was unbelievable to me. I was like, what the is going on here? Like, I thought you had to bring your girlfriend or your wife, right? So, I wasn't unhappy about taking my wife. We had a lovely time, but I was like, what a freaking stud. He pulls this out of the hat and he brings Rob O'Brien. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? I just couldn't believe it. How did you get away with it? I guess it's +1, right? But
on my end, it was. I had to explain my reasons why, and I still to this day, I could only imagine what went through their head when I brought it by him. But you looked at Robbie and said, "How did your wife let you go on this trip?"
Total veteran move, total veteran.
Yeah, but
I couldn't have been more happy for you. Like, it was like.
It was so funny, man. Yeah. It was so funny. I'll never forget it. Like, remember we did that day at the park? We went on the rides with the tubes and all this stuff. While we're all there with our girlfriends and our wives, and we're holding hands, and we're coming down, taking pictures. And here comes Robbie and Lolly in this big blow-up tire tube, and they're swishing and swashing, and there's rum going everywhere. Oh man, what a laugh!
Oh yeah. And then after the banquet in the casino. I tell you what, I'll never forget that night, Hilly.
Yeah.
Lolly, I tell you.
Oh man.
Neither will Sal.
No, Sal. There was.
I couldn't believe it. It was you knocking that guy out at that table, and then they drag his ass away.
Yeah.
Like, don't they know who we are, right?
That was. Well, I guess we're getting into that story, Hilly, now. I guess 14 episodes in. Yeah, the one thing that was left out of Robbie O'Brien's episode was when we went down there, this guy was being a belligerent asshole at the table, threw his drink in the dealer's face. And basically Robbie told him what he thought of it. He said that was a dick move. And this guy was 6'8" in a salmon-colored shirt with an entourage around him. And he decided that he was going to get up and come after me and Robbie, and we were feeling no pain. And Buddy hauled back the swing at us, and anyway,
you committed Superman him right in the fucking chops.
Yeah, there was a couple of smacks thrown, and anyway, we'll end that story there. But he got thrown out, and we got to continue on with our night, and I think it had a lot to do with who brought us down there. And then another story from that. So I was on the phone with Shalesy, right, before we jumped down with you tonight. And I gave Shalesy a call, and he knew that you were coming on with us tonight. He said, ask Red about when we went out golfing that day, and Kenny Hill had the golf course shut down for us. And he said something about you teeing off and hitting it into someone's backyard on the Bahamas golf course. And he told me to ask you about that story.
Yeah. So the girls, I guess, or everybody, the girls went out on the yacht to do some scuba diving or whatever the heck they were doing. We were playing golf. It was a phenomenal golf course. And someone had said that Beyonce's house was on the golf course, right? So here I get up to the tee blocks and yeah, that's Beyonce's house right there. So I was like, well, hey, that's about, 350 yards. That's inside my range. So it's amazing. I can't hit the fairway, but I can hit one right in front of her house, right? So I'm walking over towards it to get my ball, and the security guards come out. They got guns and all this crap. And I'm like, oh, they threw the ball back to me. I said, hey, I wanted to play it where it lied. No, sir, you're not.
Not today.
Yeah, Chelsea's like,
say hi to Beyonce for me, right?
that's what Chelsea's saying, just having to run up and make sure you don't jump over the fence, man. It was on that whole round of golf to this day. You're never going to get a round of golf or an experience like that ever. The Atlantis Golf Club down there. It was a beautiful day. It was unreal, and what a way to kind of ring in a championship with the boys. Yeah, it was unreal.
I'll never forget it.
Almost as good as your 50th birthday party was.
Yeah, right there, close second.
Yeah. But Red, getting you on here tonight, it's a pleasure for us. Love getting caught up with you in general. One of our favorite teammates. To hear you go through a lot of the things that you've done in the game, one of the best to ever play. You've been someone we've looked up to for a number of years, had the pleasure to go through so many great experiences with you, and it was an absolute pleasure to get you on and go through that. And Hilly, just another example of one of the best and why he's one of the best to play the game.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It was great to talk to you tonight. We missed catching up on the weekend tournaments with COVID last couple of years, but hopefully this summer now we'll get up to Tavistock and probably St. Clements or something like that. We'll catch up and have a couple of beers in the tent. Right
on, guys. You know what? It's my pleasure playing with you guys and being here, go back and talk about old things we used to did. It was great. Yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
And there you have it, boys. Another great episode with one of our great teammates and all around great ball players in the game. We got Lucas and Nick here. A little bit of Rum Ragged to take us out.
Ladies man, but I'm unhappy now. For courting 6 girls all at once they used me.
Bye-bye baseball!
My mother said it was naughty, I should kiss and goodbye. But I said if it's naughty, sure it's also very